Okay, guys, so here we go. We're going to do Thursday today. All right, so our objective today is that I can find the equation of a line from a situation, a table, and a graph. Okay? All right, here we go. Get that objective down for me. So today's going to look a little different for you guys because you're not in person. I really wish that you guys were here to take part in the activity today, but this is what we got to deal with, okay? So our objective is that we can find the equation of a line from a situation, which is what we did Monday, a table, which is what we did yesterday, and a graph, which is what we did last week. All right, we're going to notice all the similarities between that. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at this warm-up here. Jimmy wants to buy a new iPhone that costs $550. He has already saved $200. Jimmy cuts grass and charges $25 per lawn. How many lawns would he have to mow to make the $550 to get his new iPhone? What's our prediction right now about how many, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what kind of prediction could you make right now? Maybe it's 10 yards, maybe it's 20 yards, maybe it's 50 yards. But let's go ahead and try to figure that out eventually at the end today. Okay, we'll come back to this slide at the end. All right. Same situation, I just rewrote it for you. What would the equation for this situation be? All right, so here we go. What's the equation? Well, I know that it's going to be y equals, okay, what's my slope? All right, what's the thing that changes? Where's the per at? $25 per lawn, okay? So 25x plus, how much did he start with? He started with $200. This is what we did on Monday, okay? So there's my situation. Now, if I answer the question, where would I plug it in? How would I figure it out? What would I do? I want to figure out if he mows 12 yards. This is our x. So I got y equals 25 times 12 plus 200. Okay? Put it in your calculator there and see what you get for me. 25 times 12 plus 200 equals his total amount of money that he would have then is $500. I bet from right there you can tell me what your prediction would be. Were you right? Were you wrong? Were you too high? Were you too low? Okay? But I think you can probably tell me how many yards it would need to be. All right. So that would be the situation that I would use. Here's my equation right there. Keep that in mind. All right? Write that on your paper for me. Y equals 25x plus 200. What about this one? Skate Town offers a monthly membership for where you can get a discount, and it only costs you $4 every time you go. You still have to rent the skates that cost $4 per rental. Write an equation using cost C and X for every time that you go. So what would the equation be? Well, if I use C this time, I could use C or I could use Y. Let's say I just use Y. Y equals, how much does it cost every time you go? $4 per how many times you go, right? Plus the $4 to rent the skates. My question then is, if you go 5 times in a month, how much would it cost? Well, what would I do? Y equals 4 times 5 plus 4. All right? I just plug that 5 in because that's how many times I'm going to go. And for my x, 4 times 5, 20, plus 4, so it cost me $24. All right? Questions there? Does that kind of make sense, guys? Does that kind of make sense? Okay, let's take a look at it now. Okay, this is what we did yesterday, right? This is the easy example. The first thing that I want to do is that I want to find the slope. How do we find the slope? This is what we did yesterday. What is my difference here between 20 and 25? Because I want the change in y over the change in x. 20 to 25. 200 to 225 tells me that I'm going to go up 25. 0 to 1 tells me that I'm going to go up 1. Simplify, so my slope is 25. So I know my equation is going to be 25x. Y equals 25x. Now what's my y-intercept? These were the easier types from yesterday because why? Because I know that this is my y-intercept. So I know that since it has a 0 for the x, my y-intercept is going to be 200. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? You got that figured out, okay? Hopefully that was a little bit of review from yesterday. We're going to review the more tougher types next. Okay, let's look at this one now. Remember, my first thing, find the slope. Okay, let's find our slope now. Let's do it. How far is it from 12 to 20? Plus 8, right? How far is it from 2 to 4? Plus 2. So my slope is going to be 8 over 2, which simplifies to 4. There's our slope. So we did our first step. The second step is to what? Well, I want to check the y-intercept and see if I have 0 for an x. And I don't. So that's not going to work this time. So then my second step needs to be I need to plug in a point. Okay? So let's pick a point to plug in. I'm going to go with the point at the top because that's the smallest one. So I know my equation is going to be y equals 4x plus b. But I want to pick those points there, 2 and 12, and I want to plug it into my equation. You ready? Watch what happens here. Here we go. Let's do it. So I'm going to take the y-coordinate, which is 12, equals 4 times my x-coordinate, which is 2, plus b. Now, step 3 from yesterday is to solve for b. So let's do it. Solve for b. 4 times 2 is 8. I got 12 equals 8 plus b. Minus my 8, minus my 8. And I know that b equals 4. And the last step that we talked about was to rewrite it. So let's rewrite it down here at the bottom. I got y equals, what's my slope? My slope's 4. What's my y-intercept? It's also 4. And there we go. Okay? How are we feeling on that? So far, so good? Okay, now we're going to go back to last week. You ready? Here we go. Let's look at a graph. All right? Let's look at a graph. Okay, now remember, it's been a few days since we've done this, but it's the same thing, right? I want y equals mx plus b. Here's my slope, and here's my y-intercept. Okay, let's go to work. The first thing that I need is my slope. So pick 2 of the yellow points to go from. You ready? I'm going to pick this one here to that one there. Now remember, our slope is we rise and we run. Okay? So let's rise and run. Here we go. Rise up, rise over. Now don't look at the lines as much today. Look at how far I'm going, because the lines, I couldn't get a graph that was going to work, and I didn't want to show you 225 different numbers, okay? So how far is it from 225 to 250? Well, I know that I'm going to go up, right? I'm going up right here, 25. How far am I going over to the right? I went from 1 to 2, so I went over 1. So my slope is going to be 25. You can put over 1 if you want, x. Now where's my y-intercept? That's the other part that I need. It's down here at 200. So how do I do at the end? Just put 200. I can rewrite it if I need to. 25x plus 200. Easy enough? Remember that from last week. Come on, get there. See any things that look the same? What about this one? Okay? Let me get those dots looking a little better. There, and there, and there. Same thing, okay? Let's use this dot here. Let's use that middle green dot. Let's rise and run. How far am I going to go up? How far am I going to go over? I went up, and I went over to the right. Okay, how far is it from 8 to 12? This one actually is right. I went up 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. How far did I go over? From 1 to 2? I just went over 1. So that means my slope, right? My rise was 4. My run was 1. So my slope is 4. So I got y equals 4x. And what's my y-intercept? Where would that line cross the y-axis? It would cross right here. at plus 4. I think we've seen that before, haven't we? So what do you notice? What do you notice? Situation A, situation B. This was the first problem that I did of the equations. Right here, this was my first equation. This was my second equation. First table, second table. First graph, second graph. What do you guys notice? Did you pay attention to what my equations were? Look. There's my first equation. There's my equation here, 25x plus 200. Here's my first graph, 25x plus 200. Look, guys, we just did the same problem in 3 different ways and got the same equation. This 25x plus, 25x plus 200 was the same equation here, and it was the same equation here. 4x plus 4 was the same equation here, and it was the same equation there. So if I go back to my objective, right, my objective was I can find slope, intercept from a table, a graph, or a story. We just did it 3 different ways and got the exact same answer. Okay? All right, guys, we'll work on this together in a few minutes. All right, talk to you soon.